Hey everyone, today I'm going to be showing you how to mix oil and water. But first let me take a drink of this milk. Only it's not milk. This is oil and water mixed together. So believe it or not, this is just canola oil and water with no other ingredient. So this is oil mixed in as an emulsion with water. Now normally what happens when you mix water and oil, I'm sure you know, but it looks like this. So you get this layer of oil on top. That's because water and oil, when mixed together, don't form one phase together, but they form two separate liquid phases. Now you can try to mix them together by stirring it. And at first it looks like they mix, but watch what happens after a while. So after a while, the oil goes right back on top of the water. So normally to get oil and water to mix, you have to add in an emulsifier or a surfactant. So the surfactants have a hydrophobic end and a hydrophilic end. And the hydrophilic end goes in the oil and the hydrophobic end goes on the outside of the oil. And so it keeps the oil droplets apart. So you can see that if I just add some soap to this, then I can get my mixture to stay mixed. So now it doesn't separate into oil and water again. So the tiny little droplets of oil had stayed as tiny little droplets now. Well then how did I get this mixture to stay as tiny little droplets of oil with no emulsifier or surfactant? Well, if you've been watching my channel for a long time, you know that I frequently use my vacuum chamber. Well, a while ago I was researching and I found an obscure paper that said that if you mix oil and water in a vacuum, then they don't actually separate that well. They actually stay emulsified together pretty well. Now I made a separate video on this where I put some oil and water in a vacuum chamber and I mixed it together, and sure enough, it did stay mixed in there a little bit, but not very well. And the reason I think is because I didn't have that small of droplets. I wasn't using a true mixer. So in order to make this, what you need is a real blender to make those droplets as small as possible with no air. But that means you need to have your blender under vacuum. So I found this really cool product called Void. And believe it or not, what this is it's actually a tiny little vacuum pump. And you put it on your blender and it vacuums out the air from inside your blender. I'm gonna put just a half an apple in here. So with an apple, as soon as you open it up to the air, it starts browning because the enzymes in it react with the oxygen in the air and it turns a brown color. So you just put this on, then just push go. And it literally starts vacuuming out the air in there. So cool. You can see the air bubbling out of the apple in there. I think that it's at its max vacuum now. I'm gonna let this bubble for a while in here, get out all the oxygen that I can. Okay, now I'm gonna blend it up. Okay, now I'm gonna let the air back in. So you can see the blended up apple keeps this nice bright color as opposed to a dark brown color that you'd get if you blended it up with oxygen. So these vacuum lids are pretty cool because a lot of the antioxidants in your food immediately react with the oxygen in the air when you blend it up because it exposes it to a ton more oxygen than it would normally get if you just ate it normally. So let me show you how I made this oil and water mixture. So first I'll just pour in my regular water, then my oil, then I just turn on my vacuum. Okay, now I just blend it together. You can see it immediately becomes this milky white now. Okay, look how cool this is. So why is it becoming white like this if it's actually tiny little oil droplets in here? Well, that's because all of the tiny little oil drops are actually scattering all the light that hits it. And because we have white light in the room, it makes the mixture look white. So there you go, a stable emulsion of oil and water without any emulsifier or surfactant. But why is this useful? Well, this is directly useful to me because normally if I wanted to make a salad dressing that has like vinegar and oil in it, normally you need to add another ingredient to get the oil mixed together. But if you have the vacuum chamber lid, then you can just make it a vacuum in there, mix it together, and it'll stay this stable mixture, which is pretty cool actually. The other cool thing about this is what this means is that when you use vacuumed water that doesn't have air in it, then it can actually act a little bit like a surfactant. It can gather up the oil into tiny little droplets and not let it stay on the surface. So you could actually clean with water that's been vacuumed. The interesting thing about the science behind this is scientists aren't exactly sure why degassed water makes such a good emulsifier with oil. The leading theory is that when you have regular water with dissolved oxygen and nitrogen in it, it kind of forms a layer around the bubble of oil in it. And because of that, it actually makes those oil droplets want to join together even more because of the surface tension of water. So it wants to create a bubble with that air and with the oil inside of it. But if you remove the air, then it's just the driving force of the oil wanting to coalesce together, and that's much weaker without the air in there. So this video wasn't sponsored or anything, but the creator of this, who is actually the grandson of the Blendtec creator, the Will It Blend guy, he had created this vacuum lid and he sent me one that I could use in my video. So if you want to try your own, I'll put the link in my description where you can get it. And thanks again for watching another episode of the Action Lab. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet, and hit the bell so that you can be notified when I release my latest video. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.